Welcome back to the Military Retirement Podcast, where we adapt and overcome on the daily.
I feel like a Marine almost. I should be inducted into
Oh,
the official Marine tattoo
shoot, there you
club.
go. Let me go get my sword and
Shit.
I'll knight you.
It's
Yeah, no,
crazy.
but hey, you know what? That's what we do. When one thing happens, we adapt, we overcome, and we set something else up. I always got a little something in my back pocket, so was able to slap that on there while we were trying to figure things out on the back end. But it was a whole thing with a guest coming on, but no worries. We will pursue that stuff in the future. We have a ton more guests coming on here in the near future for everybody else to hear. But until then, you get to see our smiling faces and hear what we have to talk about this week.
Yeah, that's the problem with starting to build the audience and starting to build the community. Like, I don't know about you personally, but I've been getting inbound, like tons and tons and tons of inbound, and I'm just sending them to the link, and we're trying to adjust the
Yeah.
scheduling and make sure we don't overlap and all these kind of things. So
Yeah.
it's a
So
struggle.
the channel, the podcast really is growing, and I mean, the viewership is, the podcast is, and we're getting people who are just like John said. We're getting people who are contacting us. They want to be on the show, and vice versa. They want us to be on their show, and we just got to figure things out because we've been doing it for a while, but the fact that people are kind of coming at us now, where it's a little bit new to us. So we're getting things sorted out little by little. You learn. So we are. I'm in that E3 mindset right now. Like, I don't know, but I will figure it out. So that's where we are.
Let me write it down on my notebook, and I will come back and give you some answers.
That's it. That's it. So I wanna bring up something. I don't know if I can bring it up. Like, it's a photo I took, really a screenshot of a. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Got it here. Where could I? I don't even know how I can do this. Well, it's a screenshot I took of a comment that I received. Gosh, I wish I could.
You should be able to share. Was it present share screen or something like that? And if you get
So
a second screen up,
let's go here. Window. Oh, here we go. Share this little guy right here. So check this out here. All right. I got this comment on one of my videos, right? And this was, just 2 days ago, it says. And it was a video on, I think it was like VA disability and stuff. It says, part of me feels like I should have lied to get rating just to have more benefit. Kinda suck for the vet with no rating gets the bare minimum. And that one kind of stood out to me a little bit because I firmly believe that you get what you rate, right? There's a ton of Facebook groups out there who kind of help you with, your rating. Hey, look, what about the secondary? How can I get 100%? And there's so many people seeking 100% who may not rate 100%. You may only rate based on your conditions, 70%, 60%, 50%, whatever. Not everybody rates 100%. So please, I mean, I get what he's saying, like he's not happy with his rating, right? But what doesn't sit well with me with this comment is, don't lie about it, because that's not going to work out. Somebody's going to find out, bad karma, and you're going to get hit up. Somebody's going to say something. Hey, this guy is at the gym freaking bench pressing 300 pounds, and he claimed a shoulder injury, and he talks all about it online.
right?
And then, I mean, we've seen the news articles on it, right? People get hit up and then they owe back hundreds of thousands of dollars to the VA because of this. So definitely, I know he's pissed off about his rating, but definitely don't lie about your conditions, especially during the what do they call it? Those medical appointments that you have when you're going to get your VA disability. It's fine, and they always tell you, hey, look, express to the doctor how it feels. It hurts, right? Let's say you have a shoulder injury. Tell them about the worst days, right? Because right now it may not hurt, but it's going to get worse, right? And so let them know how much it actually hurts on the worst days. So sometimes you might sleep on it, it might hurt, You might wake up and it hurts like a 7 or 8, but today it feels like a 3. I personally would not go to the doctor and say, "Hey, it feels great. It feels like a 3," because they're gonna mark you down as a 3.
Yeah.
Go up and tell them, "Hey, it normally feels like a 7, and that's what I want rated."
Especially if you've
So
had a recent occurrence of the pain and you can kind of like bring that back into your memory of what it felt like a week ago or 2 weeks ago when it
mhm,
might have been at its worst. Especially with chronic back illnesses, shoulders, extremities, all those things, the heavy duty physical illnesses, like you can really, if you have those reoccurring, and that kind of backs up your story as well with the current
right.
medical diagnosis. If you've been to the doctor in the last week or two before you go to your CMP exam, and it was because you had a pinched nerve or whatever you had to do, that is probably the best case scenario, so that you have some recency to back up what you're saying to the doc whenever you're talking to him about your CMP stuff. So
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, man. Just document all that stuff. It's even better if you have it all documented, right?
no,
But, let me see. Let me stop sharing that one and let me go on to this other screenshot I just took. And this is coming straight from the Military Retirement Podcast. It's an
mhm.
anonymous post, so I don't feel like I need to black anything out on here. Let me close out this little guy. Um, there we go. Let's stop sharing and share this screen here. Window. This one's pretty good. Here we go. Says, "Hello, all. I'm 22 years active Army. I will be getting looked at for promotion soon, and I'm sure I will make it Chief Warrant Officer 3, which will add about 2 to 3 years ADSO. I'm not sure what that is. Active duty.
Additional duty service obligation.
Okay. I plan to turn in my retirement packet next year, but numbers obviously look a lot better with more time in that rank. A major part of me wants to let this Army career go and move on. I'm having a hard time to pull the retirement trigger though. I think I know the right answer, but afraid of any regrets. What have others done or used to get their mind to just let go and forget about promotions, more money, etc., and just retire? Anyone regret not picking up the next rank if it was possible for it? When did you know it was time? Thank you for any inputs." And the community on the military retirement group has been great. I mean, I don't know how many different, there's 46 comments on it. And, just
Yeah.
everybody giving their opinions and their 2 cents, just, uh, just helping this person out. I don't know who this person is, right? Anonymous member posted a couple days ago, and that's completely fine. And I gave my 2 cents on there too, and I let the person know, hey, look, I was up for promotion. I was up for the next rank I was looking at was Chief Warrant Officer 4, if I would have stayed it. And, obviously I had dropped my retirement papers. They didn't consider me for that position or for that promotion. So I, the thing with me was I had a goal in mind throughout my whole career. It was 20 years, no more, no less. Right. And it ended up being 20 years and 2 months. So I failed at my goal, John. I failed, so I went over my 20-year mark. But um, oh, looks like we lost John there. It's all right. He'll come back. But, my goal was 20 years, no more, no less. And I always kept it in my sights. So I, that was part of the reason why, because I wanted to be young enough to start a new career if I needed to, if I wanted to. And that was huge for me. And another thing was I didn't want to keep moving around, PCSing. That took such a toll. I think I told a story on here at some point in time. It was like um, when I was in Camp Lejeune, probably around 2013 or so. I had moved like 5 times in one duty station. It was terrible. I hated that, but I didn't want to put my family through that anymore. So I decided, my 20-year mark is my definite mark. So with this guy, he was having a hard time pulling the retirement trigger. Uh, and my suggestion to him was, here, let me pull it up here really quick because I know I mentioned I was looking at Chief Warrant Officer 4 before I decided to retire. My reason to retire was I had a goal all throughout my career. and I didn't deviate from that goal. My family came first, and we were tired of moving. I wanted to be young enough to see how I do at another career. And it turned out I was able to make almost twice as much as I did outside of the military as I did while in uniform. Additionally, my wife had a great job and career, and I wasn't going to change that for her just because I wanted to stay in longer because of the whole PCS thing. I'll be honest, at first I did have regrets because I missed that camaraderie, but I found that that fades away after the first year. Once I was able to find my stride and my new rhythm, I told this guy, evaluate your cost of living, your finances, your family situation, and potential work situation. Staying in the military might work best for you, or getting out and starting a new career, or not working at all may be best. We don't know. So it all depends on what your ambitions are, what your goals are after you get out. Uh, and one thing I will say is if you have debt, don't get out of the military yet. Pay off all that debt. You don't want to start a new career owing somebody else money. So that is a big, big no-no for me. And that's something that I've always spit out to, or I've always counseled my Marines on who are looking to get out of the military was if you have any debt, finish off your career and pay off all that debt before you get out. What's going on? Welcome back, John. I think we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I think my internet just I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe my browser, I just updated my Mac, so maybe it's the update. We don't know.
All good. All
I
good.
did want to chime in on this though. It's kind of the position that I was in when I was getting ready to get out, about the
Yep.
4 or 5 year mark, and I
Sure.
was coming up on CW4 in the next couple of years, and I was really contemplating and thinking about it. And I also thought about the ADSO. For those who don't know what ADSO is, it's an Army thing. I think they do it in the other services too. But basically, once you make rank, then you have to stay an additional like a couple of years
Right.
beyond that. I mean, you don't have to, but ideally, what you do is you stay for at least 3 years so you can get that high 3 before you get out or before you decide to leave or whatever. And I thought about it really, really hard, and I turned it down really, really early because they were expecting me to go to school so that I can get frocked for the next rank
Yep.
and get put on the promotion list. And yeah, I decided not to. And my choice was basically I'd made a decision. I drew my line in the sand, and I said, "This is where I want to stop. This is going to be my last duty assignment, regardless if they throw a promotion at me or not. Even if they would have promoted me before I got out, I wouldn't have stayed the additional years. For me, it wasn't worth it."
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, man. It wasn't worth it for me either. I mean, I had mentioned while you had dropped off a little bit there that but a big part of it for me was the family aspect. Like my wife had started her new job. It was like a whole full on career, right? It was federal employment career. Excuse me. And as we know, I mean, anybody who's been married and whose wife also works at the location where you're stationed, anytime that you have to execute PCS orders, um, your spouse, your significant other, is going to have to find a new job unless they work remotely. Unless her current job allows him or her to work remotely, they're going to have to work remotely or find a new job, and that can be an uphill battle. Like when I was stationed in Camp Lejeune, man, there was like the jobs out there because it's a lower cost of living. They don't pay as much as say like California or other places, right? Like the East Coast, like the Upper East Coast. They don't pay as much. So my wife had a hell of a time finding a job. Um, she ended up becoming like a teacher's assistant for the school on base, and that's fine. But that wasn't her goal. That wasn't her ambition. So once she got into that step, once she found that job that she wanted, that she really wanted, I was like, look, I'm not changing this for you. You have a goal. I'm going to follow you around now. So it was just not deviating from the ultimate goal. That's all it is. 20 years was always mine. It wasn't 30. It wasn't 15. It was 20. Are you muted?
No, I'm not muted. I'm just trying to make sure
Oh,
that I
okay.
see the things blinking. So my connection may or
Oh,
may
okay.
not be good today. We'll see what happens. I might have to drop
What's
out
going
and
on
just
over there,
restart the
man?
computer and see what. I have no idea. Usually I've got the best
That's
internet on the planet.
It's all good, man. We push through, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show. We adapt and overcome.
Right. That's right.
So yeah, yeah. So yeah, a couple of those
Before
comments from. Go ahead.
I was going to say, before my connection completely drops out, I did want to bring something up on the screen here and
Yep.
see if
What
we
you
can
got?
talk about this really quick. So we know we're moving into a new regime with a new president and new cabinet members and all that stuff. We are also teetering on the federal budget. I know they've kind of gone back and forth. I don't know where it stands exactly right now, but I think the last thing I heard is they haven't actually come to a decision. Like they were going to come to a decision and they decided to come back off of that, and they're trying to restructure some things. So I don't know where it's currently sitting at.
I think it's been passed until March.
Okay, so it's kind of like that temporary
Yep.
fix that they do,
Yeah. That whole continuing
continuing resolution or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So for those of you out in the audience who are already retired, or if you're getting to the point where you're going to be retiring in 2025, and any future years beyond that, whenever we come to the federal budget, maybe you do or don't know what's going to happen with your retirement pay, with medical stuff, medical insurance, and all those things that happen as a veteran. Even if you're not retired, right? Some of you have veterans benefits through your rating. If you have, 50%, 100%, whatever your rating happens to be, you have
Mhm.
access to VA medical care and some VA benefits. So just wanted to pull this up on the screen and let you know if you haven't seen this already. It's been sent out in an email, not our email, but it's been sent out from the VA. And if you didn't get a chance to check it out, just to let you know, like, what are the impacts of a government shutdown and what will happen to your veteran benefits in the case of a government shutdown, or if they don't approve the budget for that year. These are some of the things that you can look at that are not impacted and things that are impacted. So your VA Medical Center, outpatient clinics, vet centers are open as usual and providing all services. The VA benefits will continue to be processed and delivered, including compensation, pension, education, housing benefits. That means the compensation that you get from your VA rating. If you're doing the VRNE program, or if you're doing the post 9/11 GI Bill or anything like that, if you have a VA home loan, those kind of benefits will remain intact. Burial will continue at the VA national cemeteries, although on the other side, it says grounds maintenance, replacement of permanent headstones at VA cemeteries are not going to be happening. Applications for pre-need burial at VA cemeteries will not be processed on the impacted side of things. The Board of Veterans Appeals will continue decisions on veterans cases. The call centers are still going to be open. Suicide prevention programs, homeless services, and caregiver support will continue. And then on the impacted side, VA will cease processing transition program assistance and career counseling.
Mhm.
And for those of you who are doing the transition program, the TAP program to get out, you may or may not have a VA representative there to go through some of those VA things that you need to understand as you're moving out of the service. So those things will be affected. Some of the call centers will be affected. VA benefits regional offices will be closed. Public affairs and outreach will cease, including social media, vet resource emails, and responses to press inquiries. And then no outreach to state, county, tribal, municipal, faith-based, or community-based partners by VA central office. So a lot of those outreach things, I know, for example, here we have one VA representative who's in Naples, and she kind of handles like all Southern Italy region. She goes around to different places. And if there's a government shutdown and there's kind of a furlough for government workers, then that will definitely impact those kind of things. So just to let you know.
Yep. So I'm glad you scrolled down on that because I did have a question. Can can you scroll up real quick? Okay, so services to veterans not
Yeah.
impacted. All right. So what one of my questions was, and I think it's already answered on this by the way of you scrolling down, was the Veterans Crisis Line. Would that be open during uh, during furlough or during the government shutdown. Because on top, on the right side, it says call centers, VA, GI Bill, et cetera, and hotlines will be closed. But on the left side, it says suicide prevention programs, homelessness services, and caregiver support will continue. I assume that that
Yep.
also includes the Veterans Crisis Line, which is 988, and that would be up and running. But I mean, I've not encountered a
That's what
government
it's like.
shutdown before. I know there's always been talk of one, and while I was in uniform, it was like, hey, look, the government's has not yet passed a spending bill or the bill, the budget, so you will still come into work even if it doesn't get passed. That was our direction,
Yep.
and that, as leaders, we have to give that to the Marines too, because many times we were seeing this stuff on social media. I mean, I saw it for firsthand on social media, like, oh, they ain't paying me, I ain't coming into work, right? Hey,
Right.
Marine, that's not how it works. You don't come into work. And I addressed it during like a Friday, a safety briefing stuff. I'm like, hey, look, government shutdown, blah blah. We should hear by midnight tonight. However, that doesn't mean you don't come into work on Monday. Like, you don't come into work, you're UA. You're gonna get
Right.
paid at some point in time, right? You are a Marine 24/7. Is I gave him the whole spiel. However, you will come to work. If not, you are UA. We can do port side, starboard side, which is kind of like half the office is out of the office, half the office is in. Only certain personnel are exempted. So we did it like that. But it was funny how that worked out. People were like, "Hey, I'm not coming into work, man. They're not paying me." I'm like, well, I mean, you're gonna get your pay, dude. I mean, so what does that mean? Are you gonna give
Right.
back the money after? No, but when I went through
Yeah.
just now, so
And I
I
can
just
give
got
her.
hired on as a government employee, as a GS, and we were told, like, if
Mhm.
there's the government shutdown, like, we were told, watch the news, because if there is a government shutdown, government employees cannot do any work. And I was a little surprised that I'm like, I'm still onboarding. I'm still in my first week. I'm still doing training. Does that mean I don't do any of that? Like, I mean, I don't have access to a computer yet. All I can do is my online training. But I was instructed, like, if we go through a government shutdown, there's no budget passed, zero work gets done. I'm like, wow. Well, that's news to me. Like, nobody. There's like one or two that are coming in to do something. They'll get paid on the back end, but aside from that, I was told not to do anything. No training, nothing.
Yeah, and as far as that goes, one little weird kind of nuance that I learned while I was in active duty, we did go through a furlough. I forget what year it was. It had to have been in the mid 2014, 13, 12, somewhere around there. I think there
Yep.
was a furlough that happened in that time frame, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, so our civilians went home. They weren't in the office. It was mainly just the people in uniform that were there. And one thing I did notice when they did the shutdown, because they cut off some active duty checks as well, right? But one
Hmm.
thing they did not touch was my allotments that I had set up. So generally speaking, when I was in active duty, I generally had 80% of my check kind of allotted to a second bank account. That's where it went.
Right.
And then the rest of it was just like whatever came into the other bank account, the primary direct deposit bank account. So the majority of my check was set up as allotment to begin with, and then whatever other 2 or 3 small allotments that I had, and then whatever was left over came into my direct deposit. The allotments weren't touched. So even though they weren't paying me technically, the allotment of the 80% of my check still hit the bank at that particular point in time. So that was kind of an interesting, weird, nuanced thing. I don't know if that's still the case today, but that's one thing that I noticed when I was on active duty when we did go through a furlough.
Yeah. Let me see here. I'm looking up some stuff. I know they did just passed an increase for pay raises. Let me see. Where the heck did I see this thing? First command? No. U.S. Department of Retirement, cost of living. Have you seen anything on the pay raises? I saw something on it. I'm trying to find the link to it. December 2024. It might be here on DFAS, but apparently pay raises were just passed for, or at least the COLA side of it for military retirees. Let me see. It says fiscal year 2025 memorandum. Okay, that doesn't give me much. Yeah, actually, it does give me much. So let me bring this up to the screen here really quick.
Yeah, I know the disability payments went up 2.5%, and that already took effect. So I think that took effect for the month of December, or maybe it's January, but that already took effect. So the COLA increase, it says should be about the same amount, but you might have better information on that than I have.
Yeah, so this one's 2025 adjustments for retired retainer pay, survivor annuities, and premiums. COLAs for retired pay. The retired pay COLA for those who first became members of the uniformed service before September 1980 is specified. Okay, I'm not one of those. After 1980, all right, including those members covered. So this is where we talked about the COLA trap before, right? Your retirement was effective on this day, this day. So this is what your increase is going to be. So my retirement was effective before this date, so it should be the 22.5%. And I think the COLA trap that we talk about, it doesn't go on for life. I think it's just maybe the 1 year, because the year before I was in the October range and it would have been 0, but now I'm in the top range before January 1st, 2024. Now it's 2.5%. So I think it only affects you for like a year.
Interesting. Well, now I don't feel so bad about retirement. I mean, I retired in the last quarter, just like you, like in November.
Yeah. And I thought it was going to be like a continuing thing. Like I'm never going to get a pay raise, right? Like I'm the way I understood it was it's always going to be 0%. And it's not like that. Now I get the 2.5% because I retired before January 1st, 2024. So it's only if you really retire October 1st to December 31st, 2024, 0.0%. That's actually something I'm going to share on the military retirement group as well. Because I know there's a lot of questions about people coming up on their retirement time and they just don't know. So, I mean, what is it? Prior to 1980, it doesn't really affect any of them, but it really does affect these folks here. They almost get nothing. So July through December is probably you if you have a choice of when you're going to retire, which you should, maybe try not to retire around these months. I think the best time to retire is January to March. I think March, they said, is the best time to retire, according to that COLA trap paper.
We've had a few questions in the military retirement group on Facebook about that. And I think a lot of the same conclusions, like go back and read the COLA trap paper, but also understand, like, as you mentioned, it might only affect you for the first year. And then after that, the increases should come. I don't know if those increases vary between people after that first year or not, but.
Mm-hmm. So there's also an increase in SBP, those who do have or do contribute to SBP. So if folks are out there who are retiring, so SBP is at least the way it was explained to me, it's an automatic. You actually have to sign out of it, or what's the word I'm looking for? If you don't want it, you have to opt out. Exactly. Thank you. So if not, it's continuous. So if you look at here, there's an increase in SBP as well for 2025. The previous amounts with respect to which the 2.5% factor of the SBP premium cost formula will apply effective January or December 1st, 2024, et cetera, et cetera. The DFAS will perform necessary calculations, et cetera. The amount with respect to which the 2.5% factor of the SBP premium cost is applied will be increased 4.5% effective January 1st, 2025 from 1,011 to 1,056. The threshold premium is $26.40. Therefore, the low-cost threshold premium is $26.40 plus 10% of the difference between the retired pay and the threshold amount. The break-even base amount is $2,262.86. Look, John, I'll be honest, man, that's a lot of numbers thrown at me, dude. I don't know. And John's off the he's off the podcast right now. However, There is a lot of numbers being thrown around here. I just know this. I have SBP. It's going to be increased. So I'm looking for, other forms of insurances and life insurance policies and stuff. So potentially getting rid of SBP. However, just know that that thing is going to continue to increase as everything is in our economy. So just be aware of that. So going back to this, yes, retired COLA has been submitted. This is for 2025. Where is it here? 2025 adjustments for retired and retainer pay. This is what we were talking about with the COLA trap. So if you do decide to retire around October to December, you're not going to get an increase. If you intend to retire July to September, 0.2% increase. I personally retired last year, December 1st, 2023. That means I retired before January 1st, 2024. I'm going to see a 2.5 increase in COLA in my retire pay. So just be aware that your retirement pay will go up and will continue to increase over time. So that COLA trap does not last forever. But good information to know. And if you're not part of the military retirement group, I think we do have links. Where is it? Where am I pointing? That way over there on the top of the screen, military retirement group on Facebook. Please consider becoming a member. It's completely free. There's a good group of folks as part of those members. I think we're at like 2,400 strong in that group, and people are really, it's just a group of veterans and military retirees, and people are really willing to help each other out and talk through issues. You can post up your questions there, anonymous, of course, if you'd like, and get them answered by a group of fellow veterans, both who are going through the military to civilian transition process, and many of whom have already completed that process. So just be aware of that. Let's get on to the next thing. Unless anybody else has questions on this stuff. Let me share this one. And I did a live stream on the Green Logbook. If you haven't heard of the Green Logbook, that's my own personal YouTube channel. And I'm going to bring this up to the screen because this one was pretty good. It was a recruit to gunny. Okay, so the story with this guy is he was prior Air Force, a prior E5, excuse me, in the Air Force. And this dude, he went from recruit training in the Marine Corps to the next day he pinned down gunnery sergeant E7, right? Because he fell within that talent acquisition program. So it was I think it's for cyberspace warfare, which is the MOS that they were trying to fill. Let me pull it up here. Where the heck is it? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, cyberspace warfare. So the idea with that is it's hard for the services to retain good talent in these special MOSs, right? So in order to retain or bring in good talent, they have this talent acquisition program. So essentially, this guy, it was funny the way I heard it worded online on Facebook. It was like, yeah, from one day to the next, he went from a recruit to outranking his drill instructors. And I thought that was hilarious. Like, then they have to call him Gunny, and he doesn't have to call him yes drill instructor, no drill instructor anymore. Of course, he could if you want to. But he was very humble. And if you read the story on Military Times or the Marine Times, he was very humble in how he took that approach. He gave the drill instructors the respect that they deserved. But it was funny because it was on December 20th, he just finished recruit training. And, he pinned on E7. So my question to the military community, especially the Marine Corps community, was how, for E7s especially out there who have gone from, E1, E2, all the way through the ranks, worked their way up through the ranks. How do they feel about that? Like, hey, you got this guy who was just an E5 yesterday, or really E5, and then a recruit yesterday. He went through recruit training. He became an E7 overnight. How do they feel about that? Are they going to give him the respect he deserves? As an E7? because as an E6, you go through things. So it's like an initiation process, right? In the Marine Corps, as an E6, you are now kind of like that middle leader, right? You're not yet a senior leader like a first sergeant, sergeant major. You are being, I guess, introduced to senior leadership as a staff NCO. So going from an NCO, a sergeant, to a staff sergeant is a really big deal in the Marine Corps, as I'm sure it is in many other branches. Like I know the Navy really holds that chief rank to high standard. So this dude, he basically bypassed like the staff academy. Now he's probably going to go to the advanced course, which is required for gunnery sergeants to move up to the next rank, to master sergeant or first sergeant. So I wonder how he's going to be looked at in the ranks in the Marine Corps. But very cool though, and I'm curious, John, to hear your take on this, because they're trying to fill in this talent gap in the Marine Corps. How do you feel about taking somebody who is knowledgeable in that MOS and who happened to be an E5 and then overnight becomes an E7 just to fill that gap?
Yeah, especially when it comes to like the cyber core and that whole realm of cyber across the forces, not just in the Marines, but in the Army
Mhm.
and the Navy and the Air Force. The problem is these folks that have this cyber skill set, they can get out and they can make six figures, seven figure, you know what I'm saying? They can make a lot of money on the outside
Oh,
just
absolutely.
off the bat. So that's the whole issue. And that's been the issue since we stood up the cyber core in the Army back in 2010, I guess. And it's just
Mhm.
kind of been building from there, or maybe that was the Space Force, one of those two. Anyways, it's definitely recent within the last 10 years. Um, the actual official cyber core. And so the issue becomes trying to recruit folks to get them into these positions for cyber and train them up. And usually if you're training somebody from zero to proficient, you're looking at anywhere from 6 to 18 months of training. So you're going through an initial phase of training for your, let's say, your basic training, your AIT. And then after the AIT, you've got these kind of core routes that you take for cyber training that can last anywhere from 6 to 18 months total, from basic training to end state. And that's not really the end state because cyber is continually just evolving, so you have to continually keep up with the training. So I don't really see it as an issue because of the fact that one way or another they're going to have to compensate these folks in a way to keep them. And I don't know if this is actually going to do the trick. Maybe initially for the first, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 years. But after that, then you're going to have folks that are still, again, looking to the outside world. And if they're making 70K in the military and they can go outside and make 200K, like it's a no-brainer in a lot of
Yeah.
cases, right?
Yeah, that was a big deal, especially when I was in. It was retention of good quality folks, and I recall having so many great Marines working for me, and a lot of them wanted to get out.
Yep.
Because Marine Corps life is a hard life. It really is. I mean, you get the last piece of the budget, the last piece of the finances. We're working with old equipment a lot of the times. At
Yep.
least if you're not like on the front lines or anything like that, you're working with some reused equipment. So we don't get we make do with what we have, and it was kind of a hard life, with if you may not have great leadership, that might drive you to get out. You may not want to stick around. You may see that the grass is greener on the other side, just like you mentioned, and you may be able to potentially get more money on the outside.
Yeah.
So retention was tough. It really was, and I lost so many good Marines because of that. Oh, I can make six figures versus making whatever a sergeant made at the time. 40,000, 50,000, whatever, plus BAH and all that. The thing that sells it to these folks, and what I sat down with a lot of them because they would ask me questions, especially as I was going through the whole retirement process. Like, sir, do you think I'm making the right choice in getting out? I'm like, you really need to evaluate your situation, man. If
Yep.
you owe debts, pay off those debts. I would probably extend until those debts are paid off. You don't want to start a second life owing somebody else money, but really evaluate your situation. Okay. For me personally, the Marine Corps life was not that bad. only because I knew it's almost like I knew how to play the game, right?
Right.
I knew my orders, I knew my regulations, I knew who I can talk to, who I couldn't, how I should talk to people. I knew all the ins and outs of a lot of stuff. I was kind of I drank the Kool-Aid regarding all that, and so to speak. But it wasn't that hard for me.
Yep.
It really wasn't. I knew how to navigate it effectively for myself. But for some folks, they're like, no, F this, they didn't like the leadership. They didn't like the training. They didn't like the fact that they had to get weighed in and PFTs. And that's all part of the lifestyle.
Yep.
So if it really affects these folks, I'm like, hey, you might want to get out then, start looking at other avenues, but understand that all these other benefits you get, like health insurance and BAH, those are going to be completely done once you get out. And you're not even going to get a paycheck, like a retirement paycheck, unless you hit this
Right.
20-year mark or 15 years for Terra. So it was a little tough, but they needed an eye opening, like a kick in the ass, so to speak. But
Yeah, I saw it
yeah,
on the reserve side, like when I first got exposed to cyber on the reserve side, as an AGR, and I was in Boston at the time. So it was, if you haven't heard me say it before, it was one of the units that I went to, and it was really unique because every single person in the room, from the lowest ranking private all the way up to the colonel, were
yeah,
super, super smart people, like really, really smart, educated. You got to be smart to do cyber and signal stuff in a lot of
hmm,
cases. And I saw it there heavily because of the fact that, yeah, we're in Boston. In Boston, the jobs are paying 2 and 3 times more what they would in any other part of the country.
yeah,
So these guys are working at, like, big health firms and big medical, like hospitals and stuff like that, working for Northrop Grumman and like some of these big companies out there, BAE and those kind of things. And
yeah,
they're pulling in a ton of money and doing the reserve stuff on the side to, I guess,
hmm,
continue to hone their skills. But at some point, a lot of them were like, you know what, I just can't deal with all this military nonsense.
yeah,
Um, but I see it as well as a kind of contrast. Like, we have a thing in the Army called high school to flight school, where we
hmm,
take high school graduates, we recruit them based on their aptitude tests, and we allow them to sign up to become warrant officer pilots in the Army, right? So they basically go
okay,
through an intensive 6 weeks of training versus the 30 or 28 days that we do as a warrant officer coming from an enlisted to going to warrant officer. There's like a 28, 30-day thing that we do. They do
yeah,
about 6 to 8 weeks total.
right,
And so they basically come straight, fresh off the block, come in to do this 6 to 8 week training, and then after that they do their pilot training, which is another year and a half after that. And then after that, they're
hmm,
flying Blackhawks and Chinooks and like all these different things, right?
dang,
At the age of 18, 19, 20, right? So they do that in the Army for that particular MOS. Again, because it's hard to find people. And if you I think they did really smart doing it that way, because if you pull somebody straight off the block, fresh out of high school, who's got good aptitude scores, you can get somebody who doesn't have all those bad habits and those kind of um, those complexes that people have with the
yeah,
military. I mean, you've seen it. You go to warrant officer school, and you've got a range of like E6, E7, E8s who are going through this school, and they're all top contenders in their own rights. And so you've got these really, like, ego driven, in a lot of cases, ego driven, kind of, everybody's the alpha male or female of
yeah,
their group. And really, the warrant officer school is there to tame that down and kind of bring everybody to the same level and get them to understand, like, we work as a team. But if you get somebody fresh out of high school to come in and do that, and then you train them up and you get them ready, like, that's all they know, right? From day one, they're like, okay, train to be an officer, train to be a warrant officer, train to be a pilot, and then go do the mission. In that particular case, I think it makes a whole lot of sense, and it saves the Army at least a ton of money trying to figure out if people have the right vision, and if they've met the age requirements, and like all that stuff that you have to do in order to just be a pilot in that case.
yeah. I didn't know that they allowed like 18-year-olds to be pilots. 18,
Yep,
19-year-olds. That is a lot of trust and confidence in some young
it is.
folks. I mean,
Um,
that's hauling other people and supplies and stuff, and maybe I don't know, maybe not in a wartime environment, but just there might be a lot of training hours that go involved with that, but they're still flying right at
Yep.
that early age. I mean, shit, what was I doing at an 18, 19-year-old? It wasn't flying a
Not
helicopter.
flying a Black Hawk.
No, 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 definitely not, you know. Oh gosh, that's funny. That's funny. But no, that's yeah, great points you bring up, man. Great points. Yeah, just to fill in a lot of these much needed MOSs. And you know, it's been a struggle. I know the Marine Corps has been like hitting their mark, and you know, a lot of the other services have had a little bit of a struggle with that. And it's funny because when I reenlisted at one point, there wasn't any. I recall a buddy of mine receiving like an $80,000 enlistment or a bonus or something, and he was
Yep.
Army. And he asked me about mine. I was like, I reenlisted. I didn't get anything. He's like, dude,
Right.
what? You know, it's like I just got 80,000. You know, and he was taking a trip here. You know, after taxes, it's not 80,000, but I mean,
Right.
that's what they sell you on. Oh, you can get an $80,000 bonus. Oh man, your eyes open up. You see the freaking, you're all wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and all that. But I'm like, yeah, I didn't get anything. I just, wanted to continue being a Marine. That's it. And he's like, you're a fool, dude. I'm like, well, that's what it is, dude. I just wanted to continue being a Marine. That's it. I just wanted to see what this game was about. You know, I like what I was doing. I enjoyed the people around me, and that was good enough for me. So that
Yep.
was my bonus. That was my bonus. So
Yeah,
yeah, there are
some of these folks get the bonuses while they're deployed, right? They do their reenlistment and deployed bonus
those
is
are
tax-free.
non-taxable, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
non-taxable. Yeah.
Yep.
Shoot. So I think the first time when I deployed, no, I didn't re-enlist when I was deployed. I got promoted when I was deployed. I can't remember when I re-enlisted, but I think it was like the first time I re-enlisted, I got like a measly, it was like $5,000 bonus,
Hmm.
but it came out to like half of that, like two grand, 25 grand or something, or
Yep.
2,500. Whatever, I took it, whatever. I put it in my savings account. It's probably still in there. Who knows? Ah, dang, man. Yeah. So let me see here. We got some good stuff. Some good updates on the military retirement group. If anybody out there listening, if you have not joined that group, the military retirement group, I would urge you to do so. Just a great group of folks who are there to help each other out. We just shared a couple of comments from the military retirement group on there, and
Mhm.
from anonymous people, of course, and that posted just trying to get good information on what to do in their next step and next journey in life. And we're all there. You've been there and you're in that group, or you're going through it, the whole veteran and retirement process. So just a whole lot of folks who are happy to share good information on there. See what I can bring up here.
How to break things.
Are you breaking stuff over there?
Trying not to.
Ah, dang.
Tinkering with stuff.
So I did want to. I'm a member of a few Facebook groups, as I mentioned, and one of them is I forgot the name of it, but it's like a federal government jobs group, and there's a lot of talk about like, hey, what's it look like going from military to a DoD contractor to a GS employee, and I responded to it. I was trying to find it here. I can't recall where the hell I put it, but because I've gone through that exact transition, from military, 20 years in the Marine Corps to becoming a DoD contractor to now a GS employee as of last week. So all that whole GS employee world is completely new to me. But I will tell you there are significant differences, from each one. Going from the uniformed services, you're part of a team. You you get checked up on all the time. There's accountability. There's formations, because people in leadership positions need to know where their people are, essentially, right? So when I became a DoD contractor, it was completely different from any of that stuff, right? So it almost felt like, if you ever seen like the movie Anaconda, when they go out there and they have the mercenaries with them,
Yep.
and they're not really part of the team, but they're there for the money, so they're
Yep.
just like going buck wild on things, right? That's almost what it felt like. You're just there for the money. You're not really part of a team, right? So you are part of a section and you're just completing tasks for that section, But and I'll tell you a quick story that made me feel like I was like an outsider. Okay, I was in line. We had a like a burger burn or whatever they call it, right? It was they were doing like a barbecue outside in the courtyard. And I go out there, I get in line, I'm talking to the other people, both, GS employees, contractors, just a whole mix of people. And it said it was like $10 for a hamburger, a cheeseburger with chips and a drink and a pickle or something. And I get in line, I was like, man, I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. And I get up to the front and I'm wearing this one of these things around my neck, this little name tag thing around my neck.
Yep.
So
ID
I'm
card
wearing
holder.
that. Yeah. And I walk up to the place to the guy, I had my burger and stuff in my hand, and I go to pay, and the guy looks at my tag and he's like, "Oh, sir, you're a DoD or you're a contractor. Your price is actually different. It's actually $15 versus the $10." And I'm like, "The fuck? What?" So I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know, sir. It's what was passed to us by the SGA, something ethics wise or something." I'm
Nice.
like, "Well," and I'm thinking to myself, like, I might need to talk to the SGA. I'm like, I worked at the military,
I used to be the SJ.
yeah, exactly. Right. I worked in these offices before. I might need to talk to this person.
Yeah.
But, I ended up paying the thing and I just moved on. I didn't make a big fuss out of it. And that right there made me feel like, hey, we want you to work and we're going to pay you, but you're not really part of the team. So when they were talking about the whole Christmas party, this is before I got my acceptance to the GS position.
Yeah.
There was all talk about this, and I'm like, "Hey, where's the Christmas party?" Like what? I the email wasn't sent my way, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, contractors aren't invited." I'm like,
Uh,
"Damn," you know.
yeah.
I'm like, "You guys like you're really there just to complete a job, a task, and that's it." And dude, the when I went, so you had the contracting officer, right, who was in charge of like the program and all that stuff
Yep.
when you get hired. I went and knocked on the door. And I'm like, "Hey, excuse me." So I was just assigned this new task, right? Something completely different than anything I've ever done, but I was willing to learn, more than willing to learn, just something to add to my pack. I'm like, but I was never provided with my actual position description. So
Mm.
I'm like, "Hey, can I get my position description?" Like I was never provided with that stuff. It was just like whatever was on the job announcement,
Yeah.
but things are always changing. I'm like, "Is there like a position description I should see?" And dude, I was met with like hellfire. They're like, "Why? Why do you need it? Why?" He's like, "Are you trying to leave this job? Why?" And I'm like, "Look, when positions change and I get more tasks, I just want to know what the heck I'm doing. I want to be able
Right.
to update my resume and stuff." They're like, "Your resume, huh? You trying to leave? Where are you trying to go? Who's
Wow.
hiring you?" I was like, "God." Like, yeah, it was strange. It was strange. But when I walked into and I got hired on as a GS, it was a completely different world, dude.
Yep.
Completely different. Day 1, day 1, I was met with like I walked in the office. This is just this past Monday.
Yep.
I started my GS position. I walked into the office, I wore a suit because I didn't really know, I don't know what you wear to these things, right? So I figured a safe bet is to wear a suit. So I wore my suit and I walked in and everybody's commenting like, "Oh, nice suit, man, nice suit." I'm in a supervisory position, so I figured, got to play the game, wear the suit. And dude, I was met with open arms, man. I really was. All the other supervisors were like, "Hey, welcome to the team. Great to meet you. Blah blah blah. You're going to be in charge of this. Oh, that's great. Blah blah. Let me walk you around, give you a tour of the office. Let me walk you around. Introduce you to all these people." It felt great, man. I was that first week, I think it was Wednesday, Thursday, they had a potluck. I brought some cinnamon buns and, we baked them in the morning. Uh, and it was like, yeah, just going around being introduced to other people. Hey, welcome. It was complete night and day, man, from being a DoD contractor. It really was. It doesn't feel like you're there for the money. It feels like you're actually part of the team. And that is something that I was so used to it when I was in the military. I went through this year of like, hey, just being a freaking mercenary, just there for the money, and then back on a team,
Yeah.
and it felt so good. It really did, man. I can't explain it, but it felt so good.
Yeah, my time as a contractor, I used to call it third class citizen because I was in Europe whenever I was contracting, and
Yep.
of course, we had ID card and everything else, but
Hmm.
you don't get all those like SOFA benefits and all that stuff that you normally get as a GS civilian if you're hired on from the States and brought over. I
Right.
literally felt like a third class citizen in a lot of
Mm.
cases. Like come on the base and they're giving you a hassle about getting on the base and your vehicle registration, like all this kind of different stuff. I'm curious to know though, the warm welcome you received, is it because of the fact that you're at a higher level GS grade, or is it because you're a GS, part of a GS community?
I think it's a little bit of both. So, of course, they wanted to introduce me to the other supervisory folks, the other team members. And so my team is kind of scattered across the country, right? So
Okay.
a lot of them are on telework, not remote, right? Because they're attached to certain bases, but a lot of them are, teleworking. But I was brought into the conference room. I met with, the GS-15s. There's several GS-15s. I was able to meet with them. I was able to meet with a couple of folks with my team there who actually worked for me at that site location where I'm at. I think it's a little bit of both, man, to be honest. You're supervisory, so they want to introduce you to all the other supervisors, just kind of make connections and network and stuff. But a lot of it too was I was approached um, by one of my team members, so somebody who works for me. And the first thing they said was, "I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for," I'm like, "What the hell am I walking into? Like, why is everything like fucked up or what?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm so glad that you're here." I'm like, "Oh, okay." They're like, "Oh yeah, we've been waiting for you to come on deck. We heard that you got hired, so we just been waiting." And I'm wondering, like, what am I walking into? But the thing is, I welcome a challenge. Like, I like to know that I'm part of a team and what I'm doing has a meaning and a purpose behind it, that I'm making some kind of a change, you know.
Yep.
That's how I work best. And I think that was a part of it. I was like, okay, well, she's saying that there's a lot of work here. I'm not gonna I'm This was my specific thing when I met with the GS-15s. I'm like, look, I'm not gonna make any changes the first 60 to 90 days. I want to see how things roll, how they go. I want to see where the holes are that I need to plug. And then from there, we'll start to evaluate, see who's in charge of what, and start doing some kind of talent management, right? You can't exactly, fire a GS person. There's a whole lot that goes behind it. And not that I'm trying to do that. I just need to know like where we can be better, what areas we can expand on. So I'm not going to do anything the first couple days, the first couple months, really. I'm just going to sit back and see how things roll. But yeah, I think a lot of it was a little bit of both, man. It was just the supervisory side and the fact that maybe that position has been gapped for so long that a
Right.
lot of the work was kind of pushed on the employees themselves, something that like the management should have taken care of. And as I understand it, there was people who were dual-headed as well. So I know that they were
Mhm.
waiting to hire somebody. And lucky enough, man, my hiring was like within a month. I submitted my resume, and then like almost a month and a week, maybe later, I was on deck. I was
Yeah, that's
a
pretty
GS.
fast.
Yeah, and everybody was like, for my old job, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's going to take a few months." Blah blah blah. I'm
Yep.
like, "Damn!" They brought me in like 4 or 5 weeks. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of got that same kind of welcome when I jumped onto this position that I'm in, and mine's a NAF position, so it's a
Hmm.
non-appropriated funds.
Hmm.
Um, I'll throw it out there for people. Like, there's different grades and different. Like GS is one thing, NAF is another thing, contracting is another thing. Like depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it, if you
Hmm.
come off of active duty service and you really want to kind of just like ease your way back in, or if you've been doing like this high level, um, E8, E9, W3, W4, lieutenant colonel kind of stuff for the last 20 or 25 or 30 years. And you want to just take a break and just do some blue collar stuff. And the money issue, again, as you mentioned before, like if you've got financial debt that you have looming over you, maybe you want to kind of extend to get that stuff paid off if you can. If you've got a plan in place and you think you can knock it out in a year or two, just extend and then get out after that. But if you want to take like a break and step back and still be part of the community at large, I feel like that's what I've kind of stepped into in this position that I'm in as well. It's a supervisory position as well. It's been vacant for quite some time, so I got the same kind of welcome. They were like, "Oh yeah, thanks for like, we're happy to see you. We're really happy to have you on board." Um, Everybody's kind of just reaching out and showing support and giving me support and coming to me. I mean, of course, I'm meeting people and trying to make friends and make connections with people in the community, but also people are coming to me as well, trying to
Yeah.
help out as much as they can. And it's really been super, super supportive. And like I said, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Like blue collar work is not everybody's cup of tea. But for me personally, like I've been doing the admin stuff and the high level, high ranking stuff for a long time. And it's a really nice breath of fresh air. Like it really is. I'm sure you fully enjoy what you're doing. And the GS position is definitely a really great help, especially if you're in places like Southern California or places that are pretty expensive.
Hmm.
I would definitely not recommend blue collar work. But if you're in another part of the country, or if you feel like you just want to take a break, like the NAF stuff is really not that bad. And it's interesting work. You get a lot of interesting, like kind of tasks and chores and things that you need to do, and interesting problems to solve, and not limited resources, but you definitely have less resources than you would if you were working at some staff office or something like that. So you got to
Yeah.
kind of like make things work and figure things out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say this: if folks know how to play the game right, as far as paying off all their debt, saving as much as possible, and I made a video on this, kind of talking a little bit about it. Um, my what I had established about 5 years prior to getting out was saving my entire paycheck and putting it in a high yield savings account, and partly in the TSP as well. And then we're just living off my wife's pay because we had the
Yep.
BH that covered all that stuff, and we were living off my wife's pay. And we did that for a few years, and we were able to put some money away. Like if you can do something like that, or at least have a plan, not you specifically, John, like anybody out there listening,
Yep.
uh, it's just it could be just extra income. Really, I mean, like once you retire, once you get out and you have like a VA disability, all that stuff, that's extra in your pocket, at the end of the day. So if your mortgage is covered, like mine is covered because of that, my groceries, my utilities, all that stuff is covered from the my military retirement pay and the VA disability stuff. And everything else is just kind of like we could still continue doing the same thing, but now I'm a GS. My wife is also a GS, so we just continue living off of her pay. That's still the plan, right?
Yep.
We just have a goal of paying off the house, being able to travel, things like that. So that's still the plan. So
Yep.
it potentially could be a very, very good life. And I don't like to fall into the traps of like life hacking. And, you see all these things on YouTube, like, oh, I do this to make a million here, do this to make a million there. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is to get rich slowly, over time. That's why I was so excited to take a GS position to get into the TSP, because I know that inside and out. I mean, I'm still learning stuff, right? But I
Yep.
love the TSP. I've watched mine grow over time, even not putting any money into it, for the last year. So, because after you get out from the military, you can't contribute to that anymore. But now being a
Right.
GS employee, I'm going to get right back into that. But yeah, if you know how to play the game right, man, that you can have a very good life. Being military retired and having like some extra income.
Yeah. That's actually what allows me to take a step back and not have to, I would say have to, but not my ambition is not to be a GS 13, 14, 15 and be like in these supervisory high level positions and be giving briefings and stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I like the slower pace of the work and the kind
yeah,
of more laid back attitude of the work. And the only thing that's allowed me to do that is the fact that I did the same. I spent, a couple years before getting out, and even after getting out, and it's been another year or so just getting things in place.
Hmm.
But getting to that point where you're debt free, you've paid off all your debt, paid off all your credit cards, paid off the whatever you need to pay off. That's what allows you the freedom of movement to be able to pick and choose what you want to do. And again,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like you were thinking of when you first came out, like maybe I'll just sit here and do art and do that full time. And you can
Yeah.
potentially still do that, right?
Oh
Depending
yeah.
on what you want to do.
100%, man. 100%. So it was only because I wanted to get my foot in the door with the
Yep.
GS world. But I mean, I was considering, a job at the local university here because they have a bunch
Yep.
of job openings, for like veterans liaison officer or whatever, that were paying like half as much. So I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. But it just so happened that this GS position kind of called me up first and they're like, hey, look, we like your resume. Would you like an interview? I'm like, hey, whatever. Let's do it. Let's do it. So, I'm in there now. I don't know. My plan really is to work for probably a good 10 years,
Mhm.
till
Cool.
I mean, shit, I'm 41 right now. So maybe 51. And then after that, do really whatever I want, really whatever I want now that I have like a good cushion. I still am not at my goal yet,
Yep.
but I'm pretty good at like meeting the goals and I have a plan. I've done calculations and stuff. So as long as we stay on track, I think we're going to be all right. But yeah, that's the plan, man. Is my kid should be older. They should be out of the house by that time. So travel around, go visit them wherever they are. I
Yep.
don't know that we're going to be staying here in California, but the sky's the limit. Basically, you just have to make good choices on the front end, and that'll establish you on the back end. That'll help you out on the back end. Get out of the G fund.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another
This is not
surprising thing
financial
that
advice.
yeah, for sure it's not. That's another surprising thing that I kind of stumbled upon in the NAF world, and I think it's different depending on which NAF organization you work with. Some of them do certain things a certain way, some of them do certain things another way. I do get 401k, and they do what is it? Contribution matching, stuff like
Hmm.
that. So
Good, good.
it's very similar. And I've also just looked, just to out of curiosity, I logged back into my TSP account, and I think there's a way that I can actually move funds into there if I wanted
Hmm.
to split things up, if I want to diversify between the 401k and the TSP, so I can actually move funds back into there by virtue of having the ID and being able to log back into the system or whatever. I
Right.
don't know how that exactly works, but I think there's ways to do that still.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at a NAF position at one point. It was I can't remember who with the FAA maybe
Mhm.
here in California, and I never got a call back. I figured, yeah, it was one of those where you just on USA Jobs, and they just kind of put you in this pot of people who are looking for this kind of work. So
Yep.
I just started applying to all these places, and somebody had put on that Veterans Federal page on Facebook, like, hey, how long did it take you to actually get a job with the GS, a GS position job? It took me, I mean, during my year of working as DoD contractor, and I was just kind of throwing resumes out there, seeing
Yep.
what stuck. It took me approximately about a year because I wasn't like really hard looking at it too hard. I was just kind of throwing things out there. But about 85 resumes later.
Yep.
So I'd say 75 to 85 resumes later. Some of them I just didn't take the after. I guess you got to take a test after in USA Jobs.
Mhm.
When it asked me to do that, I'm like, I don't really want this job bad enough. I'm not going to do the damn test. So how bad do I really want this? Not
Yep.
enough to sit here for 10 minutes and take a test. I'll let
Yep.
it go. So yeah, about 85 resumes later. And I think I mentioned it to you before. Like I didn't know what I was doing wrong with these resumes.
Right.
I was like, man, what the hell? Like I'm not getting any bites, man. Like nobody's wanting to interview me or anything. And I sat down with somebody at my old job who knew all about it. They're like, yeah, you got to look at this, open up this pub. It has to match up with this according to this, and then put that on your resume and do the next resume. I said literally the next resume I sent after that was the one that landed me this GS-13 position. So I was like, oh shit, something's happening here.
Yep.
So I had to revamp the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a complicated process. It's not
It
easy.
really is. It really is, man. But I'm in there now. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid now, so we'll see how it goes. See how it goes. I wanted to ask you, man, any plans for the holidays?
So, plans to go anywhere? Not really. Generally speaking, in where I'm at on my side of the world, generally Christmas is 2 days. So it's the 25th and the 26th, basically, in most European countries.
Yep.
And then for New Year's, being where I'm at in Italy, it's very family oriented. So we do definitely do family dinners for like 2 or 3 of those nights. We all get together at if this side of the family or that side of the family, but we all get together and do family dinners. Just the same we do every Sunday. We do either a family dinner or a family lunch, which we do pretty much every single Sunday.
Yep.
Which is something completely different from the States. So yeah, family wise, we're going to be here hanging out with family, doing the family thing. As far as traveling, not yet, not yet. I think I'm going to wait till maybe next year to start looking at traveling stuff because I have just started recently and trying to build up some leave time as well. But I think within the next year, we'll be looking into some travel stuff. So traveling, not really. We do have a lot of nice Christmas markets and stuff in Europe. We have a nice one downtown here where I'm at. It's really nice. We went down there the other day. But as far as going outside of the country or going outside of the city to do anything, not really. Just some low key stuff.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, you guys have some good stuff out there, man. Like I've been to Italy. I've seen pictures of the Christmas markets in Germany and stuff. I mean, those it beats what we got here in the States, man. Like
Yeah.
there's always like the city centers, and like it's very walkable. I mean, you got to go to like a shopping center for it to be walkable like that. It's at least out here. Very cool, man.
Let me actually let me see if I can throw this on screen without breaking things. Come on, you can do it. Sure. You can do it. You can do it. So this is
Something's happening. Yeah, Frankfurt. There you go.
Yeah, there's a Christmas market. This is in Frankfurt, in Germany. Of course, Germany has some of the best Christmas markets, but you get a lot of cool stuff, and you get to drink Glühwein, which is like a hot wine cider mixed with a bunch of fruits.
Yeah.
Very, very potent and very good on a very cold evening walking around Christmas market. But yeah, that's kind of what the Christmas markets look like here. It's a lot of tents, a lot of things set up. They have a lot of food. This one in Frankfurt is really good. I've been there many, many, many times. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to come over and see the Christmas markets at Christmas time, it's a good time to come. Really good time.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. I might have to check that out at some point in time. Yeah, we're just sticking around here for Christmas. I mean, we got our Christmas tree set up, a bunch of gifts down there. My youngest son is always counting how many gifts there are randomly, so just making sure that he knows who's getting what. But no, yeah, we're going to be spending it here in Southern California. Flying to Florida here in a few weeks, so that'll be fun. Just to visit some family out there. That's it.
Yep.
And then later on in the year, so my wife has been bugging me about taking an international trip. We usually take a trip somewhere around the world every year. Okay, this in 2023, in 2024, we went to Costa Rica. That's when we had that time off, and I couldn't really get on there.
Yep.
Went to Costa Rica with the family. It was a freaking great time. Anybody who's on the fence about going to Costa Rica, go. I mean, it's not that expensive. Go. You can get a hotel or an Airbnb right next to the volcano. It's not an active volcano, but it is awesome to see it like right outside your window. It's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but this year we're going to go to Portugal. So I already bought the tickets. We're going to go Lisbon. We're going to go to Porto, Madeira. So yeah, super excited about that. I've never been to Portugal. My Duolingo is ringing off the hook with my my Portuguese. So almost similar to Spanish. I can speak fluent Spanish. I can't speak Portuguese, and it's kind of like I can understand some of it, but it's not the same. It's not the same. I
Nah.
could probably understand Italian as much as I understand Portuguese. I can pick up a couple words here and there, similar, those Latin root languages, but it's not entirely the same. So I'm having to learn all that stuff because I do like to kind of go out there and mingle like with locals. There was
Yep.
actually a good what was it on the Daily? I don't know if you listen to the Daily.
I don't. I
It's
don't.
by New York Times. So they had a good one. I'm a big fan of Rick Steves, right? Rick Steves, a travel
Okay.
guy.
Hmm.
So they had him on the podcast, and he talked about traveling all that, and he mentioned like don't go out there don't travel just to take photos for social media. Go out there and you know go to a bingo game in Germany, or go to whatever they play. Just be with the locals, play chess at the park with somebody in wherever, and pick a country. Go out there and be amongst the locals, because people like that. Live how they live, and don't think that because you're from America going to visit them that they should conform to your standards. You need to
Right.
conform to the local standards out there. So very, very good information on traveling, especially for folks who are like looking to retire and stuff and move to a different country. I know folks who have recently retired to like Dominican Republic, to Costa Rica, and I think it was Mexico. The last I talked to, a couple of military retirees who their spouses are from those countries, so they just kind of moved out there. But yeah, you can potentially save a whole lot of money moving to these other countries versus staying in the
Yep.
U.S.
Yep. I'll give you two quick things actually
Yeah.
along that same line. There's a Substack. It used to be a newsletter. I think they still send out the email newsletter, but there's a group called Nomadic Co. And I can put it here in the chat maybe somewhere.
Nomadic. Yeah.
Nomadico. So Nomadico,
Hmm.
Nomadico. They have a Substack now. If you haven't seen Substack, it's kind of like newsletters, but in a better format, almost like a
Yeah.
blog, but not a blog.
Hmm.
But anyways, if you're looking to travel outside of the country, looking to get off the grid, go live in other countries or somewhere else in the world, including Mexico, Canada, or Europe, or any other places, they do a pretty much a weekly thing that they put up there. And it's a lot of travel tips, a lot of stuff about recent airline news that may be happening, price increases and decreases, hotel costs, entry fees to get into certain countries that change from time to time. And then also, if you're looking for like short-term, long-term visas, they have a lot of information in there about that kind of stuff. If you're trying to just move out of the country for 6 months, or if you want to move to, you know, Portugal for 2 years or whatever, there's
Right.
varying times of the year and different things that happen, but depending on the government, that can potentially get you a visa for nominal costs in a lot of cases. So definitely a great newsletter to check out. I'll see if I can throw it up there. And if you're in the States and you want to experience a German Christmas market and you happen to be in the Southeast near Georgia, there's a place called Helen, Georgia. I've been there many, many times. It's right at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. I guess it's the
Yep.
Smoky Mountains, right? The Appalachian Trail, Smoky Mountains.
Yep.
Um, there's a town there called Helen, and it's basically it's really interesting because if you've been to Germany, you know like what the kind of like the old style like old city houses look like. They've got like
Yeah.
the cross beams that you can see from the outside. They've
Hmm.
basically remodeled this entire town to look like that. So even like the McDonald's, the Huddle House, like all those different places, they've got the outside of those buildings remodeled to look kind of to resemble that kind of thing. And they do a big Christmas market there as well. They have some great German restaurants and food there, food and drink there. Really, really nice place to visit if you want to experience the German Christmas market, but you don't
Hmm.
actually want to come to Germany and see it.
Yeah.
Helen, Georgia is definitely a great place. A lot of really good Airbnbs around there, places to stay, not too expensive, and you'll really, really enjoy it. The food there is great, exceptional.
Awesome, man. Yeah, there's a few places like that. I went to, gosh, it was up north, past LA and all that. It was, gosh, forgot the name of the place. Uh, it's coming to me. Solvang, California. It was it's a very Dutch town.
Hmm.
Same thing. I think that they have a like a Christmas market out there, and also Leavenworth, Washington. I think it's Washington,
Huh.
Leavenworth. Yeah. So they actually they have a whole thing. It's like it snows up there, and they do like sleigh rides and stuff. It looks cool. I've been wanting to take my kids up there, and then I opened up Airbnb and saw how much the Airbnbs are, and I told them, hey, look, we yeah, we might have to take out a loan for this stuff because that's not that's yeah, it's expensive, man. It's like one of them I saw was like 2,000 a night. I'm like, what the hell? Like it's not
Yep.
even worth it. But maybe get a hotel out there, but they book up quick, really quick. So there's a couple of them like that around the U.S. Yeah, but very cool, man. Yeah, the holidays are upon us, and I'm looking forward to it, man. It's my favorite time of the year.
Yep.
The Matico Substack. I got to get smart on this Substack stuff, man, because I know I see it in our emails all the time.
Yep.
I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, we have a Substack as well. We haven't really done a lot with it, but we got it set up. But basically, it's like the old newsletters. It's like newsletters and blogs combined together,
Yeah.
and then you get direct interaction, and you can comment and all that stuff on
Hmm.
the actual posts, ask questions, suggest edits, and things like that. So it's kind of like an interactive blog
Yeah.
versus a regular blog where you're just reading. Um, yeah, it's good stuff. And if you're looking to do any kind of traveling stuff outside of the country and maybe go on extended travels to somewhere outside of the country or even inside the country, that place has got a lot of great, great, great information.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah. Aside from that, man, unless you got something else, I think that might be the podcast.
Yeah, man. Just to let everybody know out there, by the time we see you again, it'll already be past the holidays. So just want to wish everybody happy holidays. Hope you get to spend time with your family. Hope things are calm, not too crazy. If you happen to find yourself in an emotional or mental rut, remember to reach out to the VA crisis line if you need that, or any local crisis line or any kind of thing. Reach out to Military One Source if you still have that option available. If you need to talk to somebody, you can also jump in our Facebook group if you need to vent, say something, get something off your chest, chat with some really, really good down to earth people. Come in there and feel free to post an anonymous post, and you'll get a lot of good responses and a lot of good feedback that way. Drop comments in any of our videos at any given time as well. You can also make anonymous comments in the videos if you want. And myself and Victor both respond to those. We try to put our name at the bottom if we're responding. Sometimes I forget, sometimes Victor forgets. But we'd like to definitely respond directly. We do not have a team or a staff doing any of that for us. We're doing all of this on our own. And it's my fingertips and Victor's fingertips that are punching in the keys. So yeah, happy holidays to everybody. If we don't get to see you again after the holiday season of Christmas, then we wish you a happy new year, but hopefully we'll see you again before that.
100%.
got.
Thanks for joining us
Out here.
out here.